I'm Dr. Samuel Cade, Egyptologist, researcher, skeptic, at least, I used to be. In the summer of 2024, I was invited to join a confidential excavation project sponsored by a private historical society with ties to both Egyptian and international governments. We weren't told much, just that it involved the Giza Plateau, and that what we found might rewrite history. I've led dozens of digs in the past, but nothing like this. The project site was restricted, fenced off, guarded by armed personnel. Not military, but something off. Private security contractors who didn't speak, who looked like they belonged in Black Ops rather than archaeological sites. They called it Operation Horizon Gate. I arrived with a small team: Dr. Lena Ormond, a linguistics expert, Professor Malik Saeed, a geophysicist, and my assistant, Daniel, a grad student with more enthusiasm than caution. We were escorted through a makeshift tunnel that led beneath the Great Pyramid itself. Yes, beneath. Something that had never been publicly acknowledged, a deep shaft discovered by ground-penetrating radar decades ago, sealed off and erased from maps. It wasn't a natural formation. It was too symmetrical, too precise. The air down there was dry, untouched, filled with ancient dust that clung to our lungs like memory. We descended spiral stairs cut directly into stone, unmarked, untouched for what must have been millennia. The shaft opened into a circular chamber, perfectly round, with walls made of black stone that pulsed faintly under our lights. There were symbols. Not hieroglyphs. Not Coptic. Not any ancient language we knew. Lena knelt, tracing her fingers over one of them. "These aren't carved," she whispered. "They're grown." We didn't understand what she meant until she showed us. When she pressed the symbol, it vibrated slightly, like a living thing, as if the stone itself responded to her touch. That was the first sign that something was wrong. Malik began setting up his scanners. "There's energy down here. Electromagnetic fields. Strong ones." "What kind of energy?" I asked. He didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the scanner screen, his lips parted slightly like he'd forgotten how to breathe. "It's moving." "What is?" "The signal. It's moving through the walls." That night, none of us slept. We stayed in the chamber, running tests, trying to decode the symbols. Lena became obsessed. She filled notebooks with scribbles, drawings, fragments of imagined translations. But something strange was happening to her. Her nose bled. She'd stop mid-sentence and just stare at the wall for minutes. She whispered to herself constantly. Then, on the third night, she spoke in a language we didn't recognize. It wasn't gibberish. It had rhythm, structure, emotion. When she stopped, she looked at us and smiled faintly. "It wants to open," she said. "What does?" She pointed at the largest symbol on the far wall. A perfect circle intersected by 3 lines. The moment she touched it, the chamber trembled. We screamed. Malik dropped his equipment. Daniel ran toward the entrance. And the wall began to recede, folding in on itself like an iris, revealing a passageway we hadn't seen before. Dark. Silent. Endless. Lena walked toward it like she was in a trance. I grabbed her arm. "Lena, stop. We don't know what's down there." She turned to me, and her eyes, God help me, her eyes were glowing. Just faintly, like a shimmer of gold beneath the iris. "It's not down there, Sam," she said. "It's coming out." We stood frozen. The newly revealed passage exhaled a gust of air, not stale, like the rest of the chamber, but warm and metallic. It smelled like copper and lightning. Lena's hair fluttered in the current, her eyes locked onto the dark void. "It's waking up," she said. I looked at Malik. He was backing away, muttering to himself, something about wave interference and quantum tunneling. His instruments had gone dark. Batteries drained. Screens cracked. Daniel was the first to speak up. "We have to report this. We can't go in there blind." But Lena had already stepped into the corridor. We had no choice but to follow her. The passage wasn't carved, it was grown, like the chamber. The walls were smooth but organic, with faintly glowing veins that pulsed beneath the surface. The further we walked, the more wrong everything felt. The space wasn't obeying physics. Our footsteps echoed in a way that didn't make sense, like the sound bounced off surfaces that weren't there. At one point, Daniel dropped his flashlight. It fell, and kept falling. We never heard it hit the ground. After what felt like hours, but according to Malik's watch, was only 23 minutes, we arrived at a massive door. Unlike the passage and chamber, this door was made of a strange, reddish gold metal. It shimmered like it was underwater. Etched into its surface were symbols far more complex than anything we'd seen. Lena placed her hand on the center. Immediately, we heard a voice. Not out loud, but inside our heads. "Do you seek what was buried by the first ones?" We all staggered backward. "What the hell was that?" Daniel shouted. Malik trembled, holding his head. "That wasn't sound. That was direct neural resonance." Lena remained calm. It asked the question. And I think we have the answer. "No," I said firmly. "We're not here for rituals. We're scientists." But the door pulsed again. "Do you seek what was buried?" And Lena, God help us, said, "Yes." The door opened. Inside was a room the size of a stadium, hollowed out beneath the pyramid. Its walls were covered in massive, floating structures. Not mechanical. Not stone. Something in between. They hovered, rotating slowly, humming with alien frequencies. And in the center, a single pedestal. Upon it, a sphere, hovering a few inches above the surface, spinning slowly. It was perfectly smooth, blacker than black, absorbing all light. Lena walked to it. "Don't touch it," I begged. She looked back at us. "This is what they left behind." "Who?" She smiled faintly. "The ones who came before humanity." She reached out. The moment her fingers grazed the sphere, the room lit up. The floating structures aligned, emitting pulses of light that formed a lattice in the air, shapes, diagrams, maps. One of them hovered in front of us, displaying a galaxy, not ours. The voice returned. "One portal opens. One must remain closed." Then everything collapsed into chaos. Malik screamed, clutching his head. Daniel dropped to the floor, convulsing. The air shimmered, bending like heat above asphalt. I saw figures in the light, tall, elongated, moving unnaturally. Not human. Lena collapsed, the sphere still floating above her. Then it began to pulse. Once. Twice. And then it cracked. A seam formed across its surface. And from within it, something looked back at us. The room fell silent. Dead silent. Even Malik's screams stopped, like the very concept of sound had been vacuumed out of existence. The cracked sphere floated above Lena's unconscious body. From the jagged opening, a dim glow poured out, deep violet, like starlight twisted through a prism. Within it, I saw movement. Not shapes. Not organisms. Ideas. Living, sentient, impossible ideas. And then came the whisper. Not words. Not even thoughts. It was something older than both. a knowing that slammed into my skull like 1,000 memories that weren't mine. I saw cities carved into moons. I saw beings of crystal and fluid building towers that sang. I saw the Earth, our Earth, not as a birthplace, but as a prison. A prison built to contain it. The sphere trembled violently, and the room shuddered like it was resisting. Daniel lay on the floor, his eyes wide open, bleeding from his ears. Malik backed into the wall, clawing at his own skin like he was trying to peel something off him that didn't belong. And the sphere whispered again, clearer this time. The seal has thinned. Time collapses. The gate must feed. Then the floor beneath the pedestal split. From it, a column rose, tall, covered in that same reddish gold metal, engraved with layers upon layers of alien language. At its top was a slot, shaped like a human hand. We looked at each other, all of us knowing the horror we were now part of. Lena stirred. Her skin was pale, her lips blue. But her eyes had changed. Not glowing anymore, black, like the inside of the sphere. She stood slowly, stepped toward the column, and raised her hand. "Lena, don't," I begged. She didn't stop. She placed her palm on the slot. There was a sound, not of this world, a vibration so deep it made our bones feel hollow. Light surged through the pedestal, raced along the walls, and struck the floating structures. They began to rotate faster, syncing with one another. And in the center of the ceiling, a crack formed. The portal was opening. From it poured a mist, thick and shimmering, descending slowly like a curtain of ink. In it, shapes began to move. Long-limbed, faceless, whispering things that bent logic. Then we heard footsteps. From behind us. We turned, and saw the guards. The same private security we'd met at the entrance. Except now, they weren't human anymore. Their skin was metallic. Their eyes glowed like the symbols on the walls. Their voices were one voice. "She has offered the hand. The gate will feed." They didn't attack. They stood still, watching, waiting, guardians of something far older than Egypt. Malik snapped. He ran to the sphere, lifted a rock from the floor, and smashed it against its surface. The glow vanished instantly. The sphere fell to the ground, shattered. And all hell broke loose. The mist recoiled, shrieking without sound. The floating machines fell from the air, clanging into the stone. The lights dimmed. In the ceiling, the portal stopped opening. But not before something had slipped through. Just a glimpse. A black tendril, impossibly thin, coiled like smoke and slipped into Lena's chest before we could stop it. She collapsed. And the moment it entered her, the door to the chamber sealed behind us, vanishing completely. We were trapped. Lena lay motionless. Malik was curled against the far wall, whispering formulas like prayers. Daniel hadn't moved. His breathing was shallow, his pupils dilated, lost in something I couldn't reach. And I just stared at Lena. I watched her chest rise and fall, slow and steady. I listened as the silence of the tomb grew deeper. Not just quiet, thick, like we'd been pulled out of time. Like sound and logic were suspended. Then her eyes opened. Not black anymore. Not glowing. They were empty. And then she spoke. But not in her voice. "You were not meant to see." I backed away. "Lena?" She slowly sat up, eyes never blinking. Her mouth moved as the voice continued, disjointed and alien. "We were locked beneath the earth. Buried beneath your myths. We were sealed behind pyramids you built from broken memory. What are you?" Her head tilted. "The question is not what. The question is when." I didn't understand. I don't think I was meant to. That thing speaking through her, it wasn't communicating. It was projecting. It was pouring ideas into the room like vapor. Malik stood up suddenly. "It's not a portal," he muttered. "It's a fracture." I turned to him. "What?" "A fracture in reality. In time. These pyramids, they weren't tombs. They were locks. Anchors to keep something from leaking through." "But what leaked through?" He looked at Lena. "Something that thinks, in centuries." Suddenly, Lena convulsed and screamed, a single, bone-shaking cry that echoed in layers, like multiple voices screaming through her throat. Then she collapsed again. The column retracted into the floor. The walls dimmed. The symbols stopped glowing. And from the far side of the chamber, a new path opened, a descending staircase of smooth black stone. We looked at each other. I didn't want to go. Every instinct told me to run. But where? The door behind us was gone. The elevator shaft we came through no longer existed. We had been displaced, folded through a place that only looked like Earth. So we went down. The stairs were endless. They spiraled in impossible ways. At one point, we descended for what my watch said was 12 minutes, yet when we checked the footage later, it showed us walking for over 3 hours. And then we reached it. A cavern. Colossal. Walls covered in massive murals, pictographs that didn't belong to any known civilization. The center of the cavern was dominated by a machine, or what was left of one. It was ancient beyond measure, decayed and yet pulsing with life. Hovering above it was a second sphere. Larger. Intact. We were looking at the true gate. The voice returned. "One of you must cross." Lena stood again. She didn't hesitate. "Lena, wait." I called. But she turned to me and, for the first time in hours, smiled her own smile. "I'm not me anymore, Sam. But something of me still knows you. And it says this is the only way." She stepped into the circle beneath the sphere. Light poured down. And she was gone. No scream. No sound. Just a soft pop, like a vacuum sealed shut. Malik stared in horror. "She's not dead. She's just somewhere else." Then the voice said, "Now it opens fully." Lena was gone. Just gone. No flash. No vortex. Just a sudden absence, like space had forgotten she ever existed. We stood in stunned silence as the cavern began to change. The walls, massive and ancient, rippled like water. Symbols melted. The mural images rewrote themselves, reshaping history in real time. Scenes of pyramids, temples, and stars shifted to reveal something far older. We saw creatures crossing deserts before deserts existed. We saw a second moon, shattered, falling to earth in flames. We saw humans, terrified and tribal, hiding in caves as towers of impossible geometry were swallowed into the sand. And always, the sphere watched. Malik stepped closer to the machine at the cavern center, running his hand along its surface. "This isn't just a gate," he whispered. "It's a receiver. It's tuned to something on the other side. Something that's been waiting." "Waiting for what?" I asked. "For someone to open the last lock." Daniel stirred. His voice cracked as he spoke, finally snapping out of his trance. "Then don't do it. Whatever it is, it doesn't belong here." But the machine had already started to react. It didn't need permission. The moment Lena crossed, the seal began to degrade. The floating sphere at the center pulsed, glowing with a heatless light. The pedestal below it rose again, but this time, the handprint was different. It was longer, narrower, inhuman, and something was approaching. From the far end of the cavern, a doorway opened, not one we saw, not one that existed in real space, but a rip in reality itself. And through it stepped a figure. Tall, slender. Its body shimmered with shifting matter, like it was made of dust held together by memory. No face, no eyes. But we felt its gaze. Daniel screamed and ran. The figure raised a finger, slowly, and pointed. Daniel froze mid-stride. He didn't fall. He didn't scream again. He just disintegrated, dissolving into a fine mist. Malik dropped to his knees. "It's not a creature," he gasped. "It's a filter. A test." I couldn't breathe. The air itself had become too thick. Every molecule pressed against me like a pressure wave. The figure looked at me. Not with hate. Not with anger. But with recognition. As if it had seen me before. As if I had been part of its past, or its future. Then it spoke. "You must go through." She brought the key. "But you are the vessel." I tried to move. I couldn't. The world was pulsing, folding, bending around me. Malik screamed again, this time in pure terror. "Don't listen to it. It's not alive, it's not even from this universe." But I was already being pulled forward. The sphere descended. The gate opened. And I saw what lay beyond. It wasn't stars. It wasn't space. It was a place where time had no direction. Where thought and matter were the same. Where beings shaped like questions floated through ruins built by forgotten gods. And in the center, Lena. Or what remained of her. She turned to me, her body glowing faintly, her voice a chorus of timelines. "Welcome," she said. "You've come home." I should have died. I should have been ripped apart by the laws I no longer understood. But I wasn't. Instead, I floated, weightless, voiceless, thoughtless, in a place that didn't know up from down, didn't know days or hours or years. This place, the other side of the gate, wasn't another world. It was the origin. A place outside time, where everything that ever existed had passed through, like a filter. It wasn't space. It was memory made physical. And Lena, if I could still call her that, drifted toward me, aglow with something far older than light. Her voice echoed, not through air, but through understanding. "This is where the first ones went when the seals were placed." "Seals?" She nodded. "The pyramids. The obelisks. The entire structure of ancient civilization. It was a cage, Sam. A layered algorithm of reality. Designed to keep the gate from being remembered. But, remembered by who? By us," she whispered. "By humans. Because memory is the final key." I couldn't speak. I couldn't even feel my own body. I looked around and saw others, silhouettes drifting between thought and form. Some were humanoid, others defied shape entirely. They all watched me, but not with eyes. With intention. "This place existed before Earth," Lena said. "Before your stars. Before cause and effect. And the beings who once controlled it, they lost control. Something was born here that even they feared. Something that feeds on thought. On curiosity." My chest felt tight, though I had no lungs. The first ones tried to lock it away. They built pyramids on thousands of worlds. Not as monuments, but as anchors. Warnings. We've misunderstood them for millennia. "Then what is it?" I asked. "What's really behind the gate?" Lena hesitated. "You've already seen it," she said. Pieces of it. In dreams. In madness. In the shapes that don't make sense when you stare too long. It's called many things. But its oldest name is. And then I heard it. A sound with no language. Just concept. And it invaded me. I saw civilizations eaten by questions. Planets consumed by possibility. I saw what happened to those who reached too far, opened too many doors, asked too many things. The thing behind the gate was not evil. It was worse. It was hungry. And it had been starving for eons. Lena grabbed my hand. "You need to leave," she said. "You weren't meant to make it this far." "I can't." "You must." Suddenly, everything around me began to fracture. The memory space trembled. The first ones, the ancient shadows, began to fade. The gate had been open too long. And through the cracks in that impossible place, I saw Earth again. The desert. The cavern. The machine. And Malik, alone, staring up at the gate as it shuddered, threatening to collapse. "Go!" Lena screamed. And I fell. I woke in the cavern. Gasping. Malik ran to me, wide-eyed. "Sam. Jesus, you were gone for 3 days." I thought. But I couldn't answer. I was too busy watching the gate. It was closing. The sphere had dimmed. The structures had fallen. And Lena was gone. In her place, etched into the floor, was a single line of writing in perfect ancient Egyptian. I translated it with shaking fingers. It said, "Forget what you saw." We left the cavern in silence. Or rather, we were let go. The machine, dead. The portal, closed. The strange guards who once blocked our path, vanished. The staircase that had twisted through dimensions now led back up through what felt like solid stone. The deeper laws of the gate were gone, or they were hiding, waiting to be remembered again. Malik and I emerged from the shaft into the early morning light of the Giza Plateau. 3 days had passed. The camp was empty. No security. No equipment. No trace of the operation ever having existed. Even the entrance to the shaft was gone, sealed with sand and stone, like it had never been disturbed. The desert had reclaimed the secret in the way only time can. We stood in the stillness of the rising sun, surrounded by ancient pyramids, haunted by something older than history. That night, Malik tried to destroy the files. All of them. He smashed hard drives, burned notebooks, shattered his scanners. "This has to end here," he said. "We were never meant to know." But I couldn't let it go. I kept a single notebook. Hidden. Filled with Lena's notes. Her translations. Her drawings. And her final message. Because deep down, I knew the gate hadn't closed. Not completely. It was only resting. Weeks passed. Malik disappeared. Vanished from his apartment in Cairo. The university never found him. I didn't report it. I knew where he'd gone, even if I didn't know what had taken him. Daniel's body was never recovered. But I began seeing his face, in my dreams, in glass reflections, even in crowds. As if some echo of him was stuck between here and there. And Lena, sometimes I hear her voice. Not like a memory. Not like grief. Like a transmission. Waves moving through forgotten frequencies. The last time I heard her, I was standing at the edge of the desert, watching the stars. She said, "It's remembering you." Since then, the symbols have returned. At first, just drawings I'd absent-mindedly sketch. Then they started appearing on walls. In mirrors. In sand. I know what it means. The gate is rebuilding. And I think I may be the next lock. A month later, I received a package. No return address. Inside, just a single object wrapped in linen. A black stone, perfectly round. Smooth. Cold to the touch. I placed it on my desk and stared at it for hours. It never moved. Never glowed. But I swear, on the 7th night, it whispered. Only one word. Soon. The stone didn't speak again. But it didn't need to. Wherever I went, the feeling followed, like I was being observed from beneath my own skin. Like my memories were no longer entirely mine. I left Cairo. Fled to places without history. Rural towns. Empty fields. I thought if I ran far enough, I could outrun memory itself. I was wrong. 3 months later, I was contacted by a woman claiming to be from an independent archival institute. She had no credentials. No ID. Just a single phrase. The resonance signature matches your presence. I didn't answer. She left me with a notebook, blank, except for the first page. It contained a map. But not of Egypt. Not of anywhere I knew. It was a topographic drawing of Antarctica. And at its center was a pyramid. Not a natural formation. A structure. A twin. I didn't want to go. God, I tried not to. I burned the map. I ignored the emails. I destroyed the stone. But it returned. No matter what I did, it reappeared, on my bed, in my car, on my kitchen table. Until one day, I woke up with sand in my mouth and the taste of salt and copper in the back of my throat. I knew the message. It was time. The journey south was a blur. A cold, endless blur. The facility I was taken to, buried under kilometers of ice, was older than any human presence in Antarctica. The team that met me there didn't ask questions. They didn't smile. They only handed me a new stone. This one wasn't black. It was clear. And inside it, something moved. Why me? I finally asked. An old man, wrapped in layers of frostbitten cloth, stepped forward. Because your mind has opened, he said. And now you must become the final key. The last chamber was identical to the one beneath Giza. The same architecture. The same machines. But here, it wasn't buried beneath sand. It was frozen mid-emergence. The machine had never activated. It had waited. For centuries. And now, with my presence, it stirred. The sphere above the pedestal dropped low. The walls shimmered with ancient glyphs. The voice returned, not a whisper this time, but a song. Not beautiful. Not melodic. It was the sound of time breaking. I approached the pedestal. I didn't need to be told what to do. I placed the clear stone into the socket. The walls flared to life. Images of worlds crumbling, of stars collapsing in on themselves, of memory itself shattering, they filled the room. And then, it showed Earth. But not the Earth we know. A broken Earth. An Earth with pyramids glowing on every continent. An Earth where Lena stood beneath a bleeding sky, and Malik drifted through air like vapor. An Earth where the gate had fully opened. And from that gate, it emerged. A thing with no form. A God that existed only as questions without answers. It looked at me, and through me, and I finally understood. We didn't awaken it. It dreamed us. We were never its jailers. We were its echo. And now, it was awake. I'm writing this from a station no one knows exists. If you find this, if this transmission reaches you, forget it. Forget everything. The pyramids, the gates, the names, the stones. Burn it all. Do not remember. Because memory is a bridge. And once it crosses, nothing will ever be yours again.